Welcome back to Old School Sports and our Pro Wrestling Sim series, episode number 19. Continue to make some good progress with the wild world of wrestling promotion, and as always, appreciate the thoughts and feedback to each episode from our board of directors. And unlike many boards of directors, don't need decades of experience in a specific industry, don't need multiple degrees from the most prestigious educational institutions on the face of the earth, don't need to be a famous politician or entertainer or athlete to be on our board of directors. Just watch our episodes and share your recommendations and thoughts on what we should be doing, what we should not be doing, and how we can hopefully continue to grow the wild world of wrestling. And you've instantly become a member, so appreciate the thoughts and comments as always. And if you're new to the channel and you're interested, would love it if you subscribe and also give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying these videos. We did get some interesting feedback to the last episode from the board of directors, a couple of things to consider. I had not considered setting a drug policy for the last several years simply because it was so expensive to do in the early stages of this simulation when we had just $50,000 in the bank and we were struggling to consistently make money. But at this point, I think it's an option for us to consider. Katie St. Clair mentioned that in a sim that she's running, wrestler from another promotion overdosed and died, and ideally we probably don't want that to happen. Not going to make a huge investment, but $24,000 a month with a small sample randomized drug testing is something that we certainly can afford. We'll test for everything, steroids, soft drugs, and hard drugs, but we're going to decide what to do with the worker if they do fail a test rather than instituting a 3 strikes policy at this point. And we'll test all staff from time to time, not just the wrestlers. Go ahead and apply that, and we'll hopefully get some results from the drug tests at the end of the month. We have been somewhat thoughtful, I think, about most of the personalities we brought on board. Generally, when it says people are massive partiers or have other issues, haven't tended to bring them on board. So I'm hoping that the risk of a lot of failed drug tests and health problems will be minimal. But I guess that's something we'll find out more going forward. Also asked at the end of the last episode about our decision to increase our video production and editing quality, which pushes our maximum show score up to 75%, but with the costs of $750,000 per month, more than doubles what we had previously been spending on production quality, as opposed to signing some very talented but admittedly imperfect wrestlers to monthly contracts ranging from $150,000 a month up to over $400,000 a month. And both Jack and Katie St. Clair ultimately thought it was probably the right decision to do what we did. So looking forward to hopefully getting some show scores into the mid-70s with some of these upcoming shows. The next thing that we potentially would think about is having a writer work with our talent or having writers write everything. This is something that both Sage Dierks and Katie St. Clair have commented on. Not ready to pull the trigger on that quite yet, since we did just add $750,000 into our monthly expenses. And there are some trade-offs here. If the writer works with the talent, bad angles will do better, but your great angles are going to be a little bit worse. The other option is for the writers to write everything, which really helps the bad angles, but a more significant hit to the great angles. So I want to have a better sense of how we're doing as we try to get this max show score up to 75 and 80%. And one other thing that I have been thinking about as our roster has been growing, there are probably some excess wrestlers on board at this time that we could move on from. And moving on from some of our less talented wrestlers should, in general, naturally increase our average show scores by having lesser wrestlers and people who are less entertaining and have less star power and popularity wrestling even less frequently than they do today. So still trying to balance out the thoughts between the writers on helping the lower rated segments versus hurting the segments that are already doing well. So would love continued thought and discussion from the Worldwide Scouting Department on that topic. Last thing before we get this month of May going, and we've got our big event for the month coming up in just a day, followed by Westchester, Portland, back across the pond to Paris, and then the big Memorial Day bash. We've had 5 storylines going for a while, and with the fact that we have really increased our average segment scores and angle scores through better wrestling, and then also just through higher production values and getting a little smarter about leveraging some of the people we use in our videos and our entrances and other angles that we use during the shows. You can see we've got pretty good heat in all of these. We're going to end the We Want Your Belt segment with Elias David, Garrett Carter, and Kyle Howard all chasing Ricky Babylon. Storyline's been going on for a while. It's got great heat with 90. The hope is that we'll get a boost to some of their popularities from this, although Ricky Babylon's at 100 popularity in North America right now already, so it's certainly not going to help him. But we'll go ahead and end that storyline. Puts us down with 4 storylines. I probably will end this Pleased to Meet You storyline relatively soon. Andre Freeman, Riley Young, and River Tate are the 3 very expensive wrestlers I mentioned early who we could sign for contracts ranging from $150,000-ish a month in the case of Tate to around $400,000 a month in the case of Freeman. They all came over from GCW on pay-per-appearance contracts, but given that they are all likely not going to be long-term members of the promotion that we're going to be building around, I think it's a little bit of a waste to have a storyline focused on them. But you can see we haven't done too many segments involving them, so want to get, and we do have very strong heat on that segment, so I don't want to entirely waste the momentum we have, so we'll keep that one going for a little while longer. Checking in on the wrestlers from the storyline that we just finished. Elias David did get a 1-point boost in popularity. He had been 52 in North America, so that boosted him up to 53. So better than nothing, but given the quality and the length of that storyline, this is a relatively slow and steady way to build popularity. Garrett Carter remains at a 70 popularity in North America, so no change for him there, and no change for either of those 2 in Europe. I'm hoping maybe we can get something for Kyle Howard since he's so unpopular. And it was a 1-point boost for him to 20 from 19 in terms of his popularity. Still not on the radar in Europe. And last but not least, as I mentioned, Ricky Babylon was already 100 in terms of his North American popularity, and no change based on this storyline to his popularity in Europe. So typically what I've seen from the storylines is you run it for 6, 9, 12 plus months, and you can get a 1-point popularity boost for a couple of the wrestlers involved. Maybe I'm doing something wrong and I could make it more efficient, but it doesn't seem at this point like it's a extremely huge lever in terms of being able to build the popularity of your wrestlers. But going to continue exploring and trying to learn and hopefully improving. And we've made it to the premiere event for this month of May, 3W Live. You can also see that I have promised McKenna McKee a title win, and we are going to give that to her today. The Spice Girls, McKenna McKee, and her partner will be defeating Fire and Ice to claim the 3W Women's Tag Team Championship, which has been churning a bit in recent weeks. Ricky Babylon versus Garrett Carter for the 3W World Championship. And we've also got a big first blood match between the Demolition Squad and the Golden Warriors on a jam-packed card here today. Young wrestler Xavier Mendez going to be wrestling against Xander Berry as well in the early part of the card. Expecting a sellout here in Florida with 763 potential attendees at $35 each. We're almost getting to the point where we should upgrade to a 10,000 seat arena. There is some argument, I think, that having more people attend can probably help beat the popularity, even if the finances don't make complete sense. I think I'm going to do that. You can see it does cost us over $50,000. It actually costs us exactly $52,000 more to rent out the large arena rather than the small arena. So at $35 a person, kind of roughly need another 1,500 people in there, if my back of the envelope math is generally correct, to justify the large arena. We're only about half of that at this point, but we're trying to build a brand, want more people to be in the arena live, enjoying the excitement of 3W Live in May. So we're going to go ahead and spend a little bit more, maybe lose a little bit of money on the show from the bigger arena, but hopefully, as I said, build more lifetime fans by giving them the opportunity to attend a show in person. And with the fact that we, for the first time, will have an opportunity to try to put a show score of 75% on board, we've got a few more angles than normal. Normally we do one big angle before the show and one big angle after the show, but since those generally tend to get pretty good scores, 3 angles today. We do have some less interesting matches to start things out, so those will probably be pulling us in the wrong direction, but the atmosphere backstage remains great, and hopefully we can have a successful start to the month of May here today. Promotional video, taking advantage of some of that higher production quality that we're spending extra money on. Gets a very strong 98% score to start things off, highlighting some of our top wrestlers and top wrestling managers. Introductions of some of our more popular star power and good-looking wrestlers. Solid momentum there as well. Moving into the actual matches. Xavier Mendez and Xander Berry. Xavier Mendez gets the victory over Xander Berry, but that 47% match score goes back to my point about perhaps pairing some of the less talented wrestlers in the promotion. This was Xavier Mendez's first bout with us, although it claims that his performance was much worse than usual. And he's a new entrant into the wrestling world, someone we may be able to build on over time. So good to see him at least get a victory. Xander Berry, on the other hand, is a guy who we may look to move on from in the coming weeks and months, is some of these second-tier wrestlers who we have signed to shorter written contracts start having their contracts expire. And clearly, we can also just pay people out. I believe it's 3 months of their expected monthly earnings that you can pay out to get out of the contract. So that's an option as well. Emma Banks and Kirsten Holloway, slightly better match. Emma Banks gets the win, 50% final score there. The last kind of lower card match of the day, a little better. We're making slow but steady progress. Cameron Bright defeats Rodrigo Schmidt. Moving on to the Women's Tag Team Championship, and McKenna McKee and Ansley Howard, the Spice Girls, as scripted, are your new Women's Tag Team Champions for the 3W promotion. They both get a boost coming out of there. The scores continue to improve, although they remain far below the 75% threshold we're trying to get to. Next bout, another decent step forward. Daniel Schwartz with a win over Skylar Trevino. No real popularity boosts from these, though, so that's not necessarily ideal. Another tag team match. The Horde, Chris Jackson and Juan Pablo Saavedra, with the victory over the good guys, Keith Yates and Judah Horn. Very high match quality, 65% final score. So making some progress. Big hopes for these final couple matches of the day. Get to 70%, which used to be where we were capped, but not anymore. With Jaden Noble and Bowen White, the Golden Warriors, defeating the Demolition Squad. And last but not least, Ricky Babylon and Garrett Carter get to an 81% score. The match quality was not incredibly great. Ricky Babylon does retain his championship. So be interesting to see where this score settles out. Hasn't been our most successful card, but expecting with the money that we're spending on this final angle, the fact that it's going to be a 12-minute angle and some of the very popular wrestlers involved, that should give us a nice boost. We do get to 100%. Production quality received well. The show is over. And we only got to a 70, so our first opportunity to get the show score to a 75 does not quite get us there. As I mentioned, I think our stable of wrestlers is just a little bit too big for the number of shows that we put on right now. And I have tried to be pretty consistent getting everyone in the wild world of wrestling work in at least a couple of shows a month. But I may need to be more thoughtful going forward about just how many second-tier matches we're really to put into any given show. Because clearly with the opportunity to get to a 70 now, to get to a 75 now rather than a 70, and to take advantage of the promotion wars, feels like we've got to be a little more thoughtful about building the cards. We do get $192,000 in ticket sales. Disappointed, though, that apparently our contract expired, and I had checked this in the network deals, and 3W Live in May was supposed to be shown on CIU North America. This was one of the first deals that we signed. Most of them we did short term. Was supposed to go through May of 2029. Oh, I guess maybe since it's not going to air until Saturday, maybe well, it is Saturday today, so maybe we'll find out tomorrow what the money was for that, since it was on network TV rather than a pay-per-view. So might be panicking ahead of time unnecessarily. All right, there we go. We did get the $45,300 in income. Clearly, we can make more putting the show on pay-per-view, but in the early stages of when we did get the ability to start doing TV contracts about a year ago, we signed a couple that were longer just to lock things in case for whatever reason we started moving in a wrong direction. This one is on a network, so the income is not great, but we do get almost 200,000 viewers, which should help us continue to hopefully improve our popularity and build our fan base over time. And in the promotional wars for this week, we're tied with APW. We continue to easily beat GCW. And we had a successful show in Westchester, got the score to 75%, could have been as high as 78%. To the point we were talking about earlier, Xander Berry just came to me, said that he wants a title win before the 11th of November. Although it doesn't make him happy, we rejected that promise. He is not a particularly important wrestler to us. His contract is set to be up in January of next year. I think it's pretty unlikely that we will re-up with him. And honestly, I'm kind of feeling that once we get to the end of June, get to the middle of this year, that might be a time when I actually consider buying some of the second-tier wrestlers out of their contract to just hopefully ensure that by paring back some of the less talented people we're not going to be building around for the future, we might be able to avoid using them once, twice, sometimes 3 times a month in matches and delivering somewhat less high quality than we really need to. And I mentioned earlier when we started our drug testing, it said that it would take till the end of the month to get any reports, but unfortunately we've got a lot of drug users in the promotion, and we now have some decisions to make. Julius Dyer, a guy that we're really building around, tested positive for steroids. Chris Jackson tested positive for steroids as well. Jaden Noble is testing positive for just about everything. So have some decisions to make here. Looking at Julius Dyer, the steroids do perhaps help him achieve the great growth that he has in terms of his popularity. We'll talk calmly with Julius Dyer right now, have a calm discussion about how this behavior is not acceptable in the company. Wink, wink, nod, nod. And he says he'll cut out the steroid use and thanks me for being so understanding. Chris Jackson, as we mentioned, also had a steroid test. Talk calmly to him as well. And he doesn't want me to get involved in his business. So apparently he really likes doing the steroids. He is a bit older, so probably needs that to kind of maintain his career at this point. Jaden Noble, who is smoking, snorting, injecting, drinking, and otherwise ingesting just about every substance known to man, is a little bit of a different situation. Given that this is a new thing for us, we're going to try to just see if maybe we can get Jaden Noble on a better track. It says, okay, good talk, but I'm guessing that's what a addict would typically say in that type of situation. So the drug testing definitely adds another interesting and potentially more immersive component to the game. So we'll see where Dyer, Noble, and Jackson, as well as the rest of our talent, heads in the coming months. And in another one of the requests that I just can't possibly support, Xavier Mendez, who, as I noted, literally signed with us weeks ago, wants to take Trace Henson down a notch by giving Xavier Mendez a win over him. As I noted, Mendez, 20-year-old, just entered the wrestling world. Doesn't like the fact that I denied his request, but this is someone with essentially no experience, being paid $50 per appearance. Think that at 20 he does have the opportunity to develop into a pretty interesting wrestler, but we're certainly not going to give him a win over a veteran like Trace Henson, who's making $19,000 a month and is a wrestler whose popularity, now that he's back with our promotion, we think we can move forward more significantly. And good results in the promotional wars this week. 5-3 win over APW after tying them recently, and also a win over GCW, although not by as big a margin as we had been winning. We did get a 71 score in our most recent card, so over the 70 threshold, but beneath our 75 ceiling. And Katie, what are you doing to me, having me start all this drug testing? And I've got a lot more work to do. Garrett Carter, Daniel Schwartz, Jaden Noble, once again involved in everything, and Chris Jackson, once again, all involved in various drug-related issues. And with Garrett Carter and Daniel Schwartz, we tried to calmly talk to them about their drug use. We also got the okay, good talk, which I'm guessing is not really that great, because I think that's what Jaden Noble told us as well. And his drug use has not changed. We'll talk with him again. And now he no longer wants us involved in his business. That's also where we were with Chris Jackson. I'm going to do nothing. He's doing steroids. He's trying to maintain his career. And his response is, thanks for not making a huge deal about this. So it seems like our random drug testing, which is only supposedly going after 25% of our wrestlers, is finding an awful lot of drug use, which makes me think that everybody's involved. And River Tate, who, as I mentioned, we have been on a pay-per-appearance contract since he left GCW, has been offered a contract by APW. They can definitely afford to pay him, although Tate is a talented wrestler. When we look at his entertainment, wrestling skill, stamina, looks, and star power, he's really good at everything, but not great at anything except for being an intimidating presence. As I noted, he's looking for $150,000 a month. Given that I don't think he really moves the needle for us as far as the skills we need for the promotional wars, which are his wrestling ability, his entertainment, star power and looks, and then popularity. I think we don't try to match them. And we'll have one fewer quality wrestler in the promotion. But again, with the way our finances look compared to APW, although we have made a ton of progress, Alpha Pro Wrestling has about $1.5 billion, whereas we have around $10 million. I don't think it makes sense to get into bidding wars with them unless it's someone who's truly going to be an absolute difference maker for us. And I don't think River Tate is that person. So his career with us will be winding down in relatively short order. And GCW, who let River Tate go because of financial issues not all that long ago. Also trying to bring him back on board. Kind of interesting. They have improved their financial performance a bit, but still not in great shape. Be interesting to see where Tate ends up going. I think he could certainly have a bigger impact on GCW than APW, but perhaps he wants to work with one of the truly premier promotions in the world. And we're nearing the end of our third European show in Paris. Just had a great match between Andre Freeman and Chris Jackson. 4.5-star match quality, 86% final score. So that should certainly help with the final result. Julius Dyer putting his Intercontinental belt on the line against Kyle Howard right now. Decent match score there. Howard does retain the Intercontinental Championship, gets a little boost to his popularity here in Europe. Ricky Babylon was not part of this show, didn't make the owner fly over to Paris for a relatively small show. End result, 75%, so not tapped out. Little boost to North American popularity and European popularity. End the show. And we've still got the big Memorial Day bash coming up before we get to the end of this month of May. Made over $300,000 in income from the pay-per-view on the Xfinite box office. Only 2,500 in ticket sales, though, because we only had 72 people live at the show, as we are still not even listed as being on the map in Europe, even though we're slowly building our popularity 0.2 of a point at a time. And River Tate, in the course of just a matter of a few months, is going to have moved from GCW to 3W to APW as he signed an exclusive contract with them. We've only got another couple weeks where he'll be around on that pay-per-appearance contract, so maybe have him in a match or two. Honestly, we may have him get humiliated in a match or two to try to improve the popularity of someone else at his expense before he moves on to a key competitor of ours. And we'd made it to our final event of the month, the 3W Memorial Day Bash. Going to have 5 events in the month of June, and one of them is going to be a huge event that we have just added to the calendar. Will be the third huge event we're going to have this year, called the Spring Fling. Other than that, we'll be in Virginia, our main live event in June, Vermont, and Ohio over the remainder of the month. So a couple of big events back-to-back with the Memorial Day Bash today and then the Spring Fling in a week. We've promised Kirsten Holloway a 15-minute match, and we're going to give it to her today as part of a 6-woman rumble. Ansley Howard, Kaylee Lindsay, Kirsten Holloway, Anastasia Romero, Isabella Baxter, and Alani Hernandez. The winner of that will get a title shot against Mercedes Rose. We're going to try to spice up one of our less high-quality matches, a tables match between Bowen White and Rodrigo Schmidt. Another singles match with Theodore Villarreal and Ryan Mooney. Tag team match with the Ranch Hands versus the Dread Duo. Then Jaden Noble and Chris Jackson going to try to steal the show with a match right before the 3W World Championship. And as I talked about, Ricky Babylon is going to win that match. He's going to beat the heck out of River Tate, who is leaving us. And he also will set the match up to hopefully boost Babylon's popularity, although he really doesn't need a boost here in North America, while damaging Tate's popularity a bit, we hope, before he leaves us for APW. Speaking of APW, you may have noticed that they lost a couple of wrestlers, mid-carder Jada Duncan, Certainly very strong wrestling skill and entertainment value. Looks like she's already signed a deal to join Incredible Action Wrestling, unfortunately. Otherwise would be someone interesting to consider bringing on board. Zaid Murray also has started a contract with APW. 40-year-old. His build is obese. Don't know that the AI picture really matches up with that build. Very good referee. Interesting. He leaves GCW. Kind of weird to have a referee who's all muscled up and posing shirtless, but it is what it is. On to the Memorial Day Bash. Get this show underway. You can see we're expecting about 6,000 people at this show, so we are in a large arena in Colorado as we continue to hopefully expand interest in the promotion. Good overall reaction to entrances and introductions here. The Women's Rumble match, pretty solid final score. Alani Hernandez will get a shot at winning her former Women's Championship back from Mercedes Rose by virtue of having won here today. Tables match between Bowen White and Rodrigo Schmidt gets us to a 55% score, and Bowen White with the victory. Theodore Valerial and Ryan Mooney, both a couple of talented wrestlers, aim to steal the show with them, and we got a 5-star match quality out of them. So although they're not necessarily the most popular wrestlers yet, Mooney is someone we're trying to build around, and Valerial also is a pretty interesting prospect. Put the two heels against each other today, and a big over 1 point boost in popularity for Ryan Mooney coming out of that match. The Dread Duo, Garrett Carter and Daniel Schultz, with a nice bump after defeating the Ranch Hands. Mentioned this next match is another one where we're trying to steal the show, and got another 5-star match quality here. This was the match of the two most consistent drug abusers we have in the organization, Jaden Noble and Chris Jackson. Incredibly high match quality, stole the show, raised the popularity of everyone involved, so a nice boost for Noble. And Jackson, despite the loss, doesn't really lose too much. Last but not least, River Tate and Ricky Babylon. Babylon with a scripted victory. He was made to look like a threat, huge boost to his popularity, although again, at 100 already, not really going to help him go anywhere. And a little parting present for River Tate with a small drop in his popularity for APW to deal with going forward. Maybe we'll have him lose in an ugly fashion to somebody else before we finish up his time here with the wild world of wrestling. Very successful promotional video, and then we're going to finish things off with an interview of Ricky Babylon, which also got a good score about his match with River Tate and some of the other wrestlers who could be coming after his title in the future. Overall hit a 75, could have been as high as 78. Larger show, so he gained 0.4 of a point in popularity. More failed drug tests for Chris Jackson and Garrett Carter. I had forgotten to address those earlier, so that's why we haven't moved forward to find out the financial results from these Memorial Day events yet. And once again, we're doing nothing with Chris Jackson's drug test, and he's pleased we're not making a big deal about it. Garrett Carter. Yeah, we've talked to him already once calmly. We're going to do nothing this time. And he's also glad that we're not making a big deal about this. I'm feeling at this point that my drug policy may not be particularly effective if I really don't care to make there be any ramifications for the people who are failing these tests. Moving on to the Tuesday after Memorial Day. $848,000 in pay-per-view income, so a great result for us there, and over $200,000 in ticket sales. So finishing the month of May strong, and we're going to hopefully attack the month of June with our third huge event of the year right at the start of the month. And another month in the books as we made it to June 1st, checking in on our popularity, closing in on 52. So at some point in the not too distant future, probably we'll have to raise our back office budget. But right now, want to take a look at merchandise sales and then our finances, because as you'll recall, our production expenses more than doubled this upcoming month. So it'll be interesting to see if we were able to maintain popularity. Ricky Babylon just barely defeating Julius Dyer now in the merchandise sales, 35,000 plus for Babylon, almost 33,000 last month for Julius Dyer. So good to see those two remaining popular, and we've got a much broader number of wrestlers who we are selling merch for, although most of them measured in the hundreds or few $1,000s of merchandise a month, so we still have some work to do. Finance-wise, as anticipated, our profitability took a huge hit, made only $250,000 last month as our production expenses increased from $500,000 a month to $1.25 million a month, and we also had $100,000 in implementation costs associated with the higher production quality. So good news is we're able to remain profitable. Ticket sales down. Certainly the small event in Paris didn't help us. Venue events more expensive as we have tried expanding to those 10,000 seat arenas for a few shows where we didn't necessarily need them. Network deals strong. Sponsorships, almost $200,000 a month, so by far the most we've ever had. So we continue building the brand here, and fortunately, backstage morale remains excellent. Still have Andre Freeman and Riley Young from GCW on those pay-per-appearance contracts. As we know, we're going to lose River Tate shortly, but we can still set him up to damage his popularity a bit with some bad losses before he moves on to APW. And I have noticed a little more information as far as the drug testing. When we click on the medical tab now, we not only see who's injured, but we also see the results of all of these weekly drug tests. And they are weekly, and they're supposed to be weekly, although we pay for the testing on a monthly basis. Did look back, and things are focused on weekly testing. Most of our wrestlers are clean, which is good. As we've talked about, we do have problems with a few. We have changed the worker pool back to wrestlers only from everybody involved. I think that those are the ones that put us most at risk, and thus far the wrestlers are the only ones where we've actually had a positive test thus far. Still not sure exactly how I'm going to use this going forward. I did think about stopping the screening for soft drugs, but we haven't actually had anybody who's only been using soft drugs, so that's not really going to help the number of failed tests that we need to ultimately address with people. I think for the time being, my thought is to largely keep my head in the sand until I get a better sense of exactly how I want to handle this going forward, particularly because these wrestlers are under contract with us now. So they're making a lot of money from us, but we're also making a lot of money off of them and do have a responsibility to try to keep them healthy, but still in the early stages of figuring out exactly what that means. And in our promotional reports for the week, Tide with APW again continue to easily beat GCW. Hopefully we can get victories against both of them following this huge event that we've got coming up today. Another negative drug test for Garrett Carter, and a first negative drug test for Skylar Trevino, who's involved in everything. Skylar Trevino, 33-year-old, pretty talented. He is a mid-card wrestler for us, not someone we use incredibly often. Pay him $7,000 a month, have him signed for another year and a half or so at this point. You can see he's only got a 2-6 record for us this year. So he seems like somebody that we might be able to perhaps influence his behavior a little bit more, and the ramifications to us if he gets angry and leaves are less than some of these other wrestlers. So we're going to just continue to ignore Garrett Carter's drug use. But we're going to try for the first time, particularly since Trevino tested positive for everything, to, I guess we'll still talk calmly the first time, but I don't think our reaction to a second series of negative drug tests by Skylar Trevino will be doing nothing. See how he reacts to that. And he says he'll cut it out. Thanks for being understanding. Again, probably not the first time someone has said that about drugs or alcohol or gambling or any myriad of other potential addictions. And our third huge show of the year is upon us, and we've got some big expectations. For the first time ever, we're going to try to make history in a match between Andre Freeman and Ricky Babylon. They're both extremely talented as far as their wrestling and entertainment skills. Going to have a 19-minute match that we hope will be an epic. Freeman is unhappy with the loss that has been scripted for him, but we are going all out, expecting to sell out a large arena in Connecticut today. Big PPA wages with Freeman on the docket, as well as River Tate, who are going to try to damage his reputation once again with a loss to Julius Dyer before he leaves us. 4 belts: the Women's Tag Team Championship, the Women's Championship, the Intercontinental Championship, and the World Championship, all being decided today. Atmosphere backstage remains great. Expecting we can put a big score together with this card that we put together, but I've been wrong before. We did switch for our entrances and our videos to an extravagant level of spending, more than we ever have before, to hopefully help influence the final score and influence positive results. We also did that with the video, so given that we've been generating 100% scores with elevated spending, would certainly anticipate the same with the video at the end of the session, now that our spending on it and our promotion of it is getting to even higher levels. First match of the day, the Spice Girls, McKenna McKee and Ansley Howard, defend in their first potential title defense the Women's Tag Team Championship against the American Girls, Isabella Baxter and Emma Banks. Next match, Ryan Mooney versus Trace Henson. 4-star match quality, 77% score. Mooney with the victory. Huge boost given the huge nature of this show to his popularity. Modest decline for Trace Henson given the strong results in the match. The only other tag team match of the day, and then we're going to get into some really good matches for the rest of this card, is the Right Stuff versus the Demolition Squad. And we get a 65% score on what we anticipated being one of our weaker matches of the day. So that is positive. The Right Stuff, Bobby Ray Wright and Josue Milton, defeat Elias David and Malcolm McKnight. Alani Hernandez, who won that Rumble a few days ago, gets another shot at reclaiming the women's championship from Mercedes Rose. Not to be the case, though. Mercedes Rose with a successful defense and a 70% final score there. And then we're anticipating some really big scores from some of these final matches of the day. Cowboy Landon Brown and Chris Jackson, both very talented wrestlers, going to try to steal the show, and they did up their game. 4.5-star match quality, 80% score. And Cowboy Landon Brown with the victory and a nice boost to popularity. River Tate versus Julius Dyer. The whole goal of this is to make Julius Dyer look better and better, and River Tate look a little worse before he leaves us for APW. Very high match quality, 88% score. Julius Dyer with the victory. Huge boost, 3.7 points to his popularity. So that definitely worked out well. They've got really good chemistry as opponents, and it helped match quality. Maybe we'll put them together one more time before Tate leaves. Tate did regress in terms of his popularity, but I'm sure as soon as he's with APW, they'll be working to fix that. And for the first time ever, we're trying to make history in a match. Reportedly requires both very high wrestling and entertainment skills. I don't know if the fact that Andre Freeman is unhappy with the fact that he's scripted to lose will impact their ability to make history, but we will find out now. And the match truly made history. The big fight feel added to the match emotionally. 5-star match quality, 99% final score. Definitely the best that we have ever done. Andre Freeman's performance was worse than usual. Putting on such an incredible match impressed the crowd. Babylon, who, as we've talked about, is already at 100 popularity, in theory got a boost there, but can't go higher than 100. As I mentioned, the final video of the day, very high production quality, 100% score, not surprisingly, and a boost to everyone involved, except for Ricky Babylon, as they come out of this. So I think it was a very successful show. Hit the 75% cap, but we could have done an 89. Nice boost in North American popularity, and hopefully we'll get some good financial numbers tomorrow, and this will give us a really strong start to the month of June. Emma Banks, we had promised a title shot. She lost in that tag team match yesterday for the Women's Championship. Keith Yates has given us a title match request. He is on the backside of his career. He's becoming an increasingly less important wrestler for us as the years move on. But we can still let somebody beat the crap out of him. Almost $800,000 in income for the pay-per-view with over 80,000 viewers, and almost a sellout, close to $350,000 in ticket sales. So a big start to the month of June for the wild world of wrestling, and a successful third huge show of the year. We'll also have 3 more in the second half of the year. And we are going to also walk through our show in Virginia and our plan to damage River Tate before he leaves us for APW will come to its culmination then. We are going to try to sign Xavier Mendez to an extension. He's very young, only 20 years old, and he's actually got solid wrestling skill, entertainment values, and burgeoning star power. So for someone as young as he is, I think he's someone we can potentially build around. He's looking for a gate percentage per appearance, which I have absolutely no interest in giving to anybody, but particularly someone as unproven as him. Don't know that he'll end up going for this contract without the gate percentage per appearance and with a lower per month fee. But we're going to actually be willing to lock him up for 5 years at a very reasonable price if he'll accept this offer. And he says he's going to consider it, so that's progress. And Mendez has accepted our offer, so we're going to finalize the contract with him. Unfortunately, River Tate left today. I guess that means he can't participate. We were going to have him get, since he lost 2 matches ago at the end of May, the men's title. Ricky Babylon beat him a few days ago. We had him competing for the Intercontinental title, where Julius Dyer beat him, and we were going to have the two of them team up. They are also our tag team champions, and beat the heck out of River Tate in a match here today in Virginia. Unfortunately, he has left the promotion officially, so we're going to swap in a different tag team title match and move on with the show. And as we get ready for this show in Virginia, we have started a new storyline called Youth Movement. Ansley Howard, Kaylee Lindsay, Theodore Villarreal, and the newly signed Xavier Mendez, part of that storyline. And we've got Ricky Babylon in that storyline too. Not that those are any of the wrestlers he'd typically be competing against, but we might as well use his strong skills and his popularity to help move that storyline along and give a little bit of a boost to that storyline as well. So trying to start building up some of these younger wrestlers into people that could be our future stars. As just noted, we signed Mendez to that 5-year contract, and would love to really help push his popularity up as hopefully his wrestling skills continue to develop through his early 20s. Introductions of some of the popular wrestlers to kick things off, and then trying to get some momentum for some different wrestlers going with a high-quality promotional video. Moving into the matches, Nasty Girls versus Fire and Ice, Alani Hernandez and Kirsten Holloway get the victory. The Horde versus the Golden Warriors, and the Golden Warriors, Jaden Noble and Bowen White, with a victory over Chris Jackson and Juan Pablo Saavedra. Women's Championship match, Mercedes Rose retains the title against McKenna McKee. 73% score, which is much higher than we've been getting a few years ago in the women's division. Have definitely more talented wrestlers now with the likes of Rose and McKee involved, so that's good to see. A couple of wrestlers who have been with us since the early days that unfortunately have never really fired, Kason Hughes and Keith Yates. We'll probably look to phase Keith Yates out in the coming years as he's getting older and doesn't have particularly good wrestling skills. Kason Hughes is still relatively young. I think he's in his mid-20s. He's someone that we're going to get a little more creative with going forward and try to build up into a more popular and important part of our promotion. Another guy we talked about that we're going to be trying to build up, Theodore Villarreal. These are two very talented wrestlers. They were able to up their game and steal the show. 4.5-star match quality, 72% score. Not a shock that Cowboy Landon Brown gets the victory, but a good match for Villarreal as we try to start turning him into a more prominent member of the 3W promotion. A couple of veterans, Garrett Carter and Trace Henson. Carter with the victory over Henson. And last but not least, men's tag team championship. The Dream Team defends their title against Ryan Mooney and Juan Shepard, the new kids on the block. Finish things off, of course, with a promotional video. High production quality, lots of popular wrestlers, goes over great with the fans. Overall got to a 75 once again, could have been as high as a 76, so a successful show for us. We've got one big one left this month with the live show in 6 days. The shows in both Vermont and Ohio will be smaller shows. Riley Young, still a decision for us. I think we are going to just let her contract expire at this point. We've got Mercedes Rose, who's younger and more talented, although losing Riley Young in terms of her looks and star power will not be optimal. Her price is crazy. She wants 5% of the gate when she appears, 6% of PPV revenue, 30% of her merchandise, in addition to $180,000 a month. And as we've talked about before, she's actually a fairly negative presence. Now, it's not a huge issue since we have morale at 100, but with her cost and the fact that we've built up the women's division enough over the last 6 to 12 months that we don't really need her, probably not going to be a huge help to us in the promotion wars to lose someone as popular as her, but we're going to let somebody else pay the massive numbers that she's looking for. When, as I said, with Mercedes Rose, we've got someone who's younger and just as talented, if not more talented, with great wrestling skill, incredible entertainment ability, and looks and star power that are close to off the charts as well. Think that the $9,000 per month we're paying Mercedes Rose is going to increase significantly when it's time for her next contract. But fortunately, we signed her for 5 years, so we've got 4.5 years to go until we need to worry about that. And as we get ready for our main event of the month, we beat both APW and GCW in the promotional wars this week. Chris Jackson has failed a drug test. We decided, as we have done in the past after our first discussion with him, to do nothing with that information. Skylar Trevino, however, we're going to speak sternly with him. He's a less important wrestler to us. We haven't seen whether speaking sternly and giving a people a last chance has any impact on their behavior at all. So we'll go ahead and see how that option works out. And he doesn't seem all that concerned. So the relationship with Trevino, probably not great. Seems to enjoy his drugs. And we've made it to 3W Live for the month of June. I think it's actually a very mediocre card that we put together. I don't think we're going to be anywhere near a 75% score with the stake of matches that we have. We've also got Riley Young, who's going to be losing in a scripted loss by submission for the Women's Tag Team Championship. As we talked about, we'll be moving on from here. So in our selfishness, we'll try to derail her career as much as we can before she potentially signs with one of our rivals, but she is not pleased about that. The hope is that through a video, through some entrances of key wrestlers and a video at the end, that will put up enough big scores with our angles that'll make up for a admittedly mediocre main show, particularly for a 3W Live event. We'll see what happens. See how important the wrestling actually is. 100% score to a video. Entrances of some extremely popular wrestlers who will be competing today. Both get excellent results. Xavier Mendez, who we're beginning to push a little bit, gets a victory over Valentino Ballard. So a nice victory for the youngster Mendez, although the match quality and the score were poor. Similar result with a poor score from Emma Banks and Kirsten Holloway. Emma Banks gets the victory. Judah Horn and Daniel Schwartz, a bit higher quality, got up to 61%. The two veterans, Schwartz defeats Horn. Hoping that we'll start getting some slightly higher scores going, but again, this is just a good test of, can we put what we know is a uninspiring card together and still get to a decent show score simply because of our very high quality production values and the star power of a lot of people that we're promoting. Ranch Hands versus Mayhem, Cowboy Landon Brown and our increasingly contentious relationship with his partner, Skylar Trevino, who likes his drugs, get the victory over Mayhem, Xander Berry, and Theodore Villarreal. Next segment, the Spice Girls get the scripted victory over Youngblood, Riley Young, and Kaylee Lindsay. Andre Freeman and Elias David get a big score out of that one. Spend a lot of money to have Andre Freeman as a PPA wrestler for us, but he does bring it when he has to wrestle, and we're hoping we'll get a really good match out of Ryan Mooney and Ricky Babylon to finish off the evening. And we do a 4-star match. Babylon defends the championship. They aim to steal the show. Got a good rating thanks to that, so a 90% final score. So the last 2 matches were big. Did really well with some of the angles and promotions. Hoping to close things out with a strong angle here as well. And we'll see if we can offset 5 relatively average-ish to mediocre matches the rest of the event. The video is well received at the end. Nice boost in popularity for everyone that we highlighted other than Babylon. And fortunately, we got to the 75% score. Could have hit an 80. So honestly, we do have the ability for our good angles and our good production capabilities, putting some of those videos together, spending a little more on them to offset a relatively weak show and still max out the score that we're capable of achieving at this point. So good to know that. Kind of intentionally went in there with a card that we didn't think was all that great, but we got the job done. $350,000 in income on pay-per-view and $229,000 in ticket sales. Have these smaller 60-minute events, which will be 5 matches most likely in both Vermont and Ohio before we get to the end of the month. And we finally made it to the end of this month of June, so another month in the books. The first half of the year now complete for the Wild World of Wrestling. Some bad news and some good news. The bad news is we only scored 68% scores on our last 2 shows of the month, those smaller shows in both Vermont and Ohio. So that is certainly not optimal, but we'll deal with the ramifications going forward. Going to spend a little time, given that it is the mid-year, reassessing our wrestlers, figuring out who we might want to either let their contracts expire or potentially even pay them out to pare down the group a little bit and get rid of some people that just aren't adding value and are just wasting spots on our cards when we give them a match or 2 a month. Good news is that backstage morale remains outstanding. From a medical perspective, we actually had no positive drug tests with everyone who was sampled last week, so that's certainly positive. We continue to win the promotional wars despite our less stellar performances with our last couple of shows. Merchandise sales continue to increase, and this is huge. Julius Dyer has now passed the owner of the promotion, Ricky Babylon, in terms of his merch sales, and it's not even close. Dyer's new contract with us is going to kick in just about 3 weeks, and it's going to be huge to have him locked up for the next 5 years at a very reasonable price as he becomes one of the most popular wrestlers in the world, someone that we will definitely be building around. And overall finances, we made over $1 million last month. Certainly having the huge show helped us. So we are in a very good position with the Wild World of Wrestling as we prepare to review our roster in more depth as we get ready for the second half of the year and perhaps make some difficult decisions as far as who we're going to move on from, who we're going to promote more aggressively and who we really want to build around for both the near term, medium term, and the long term. But I think we're in really good shape with the 25-year-old Julius Dyer, already signed to an extension. The 25-year-old Mercedes Rose signed for another 4+ years. A lot of our key wrestlers are locked up with us for the foreseeable future, and people that we certainly intend to continue building around. Also do have a very interesting contract expiration that we've been tracking. Sonny Gunn is going to be expiring from IAW. For whatever reason, it doesn't let us click on him to negotiate the contract there. But if we bring up Sonny Gunn, we do have an opportunity to try to negotiate with him. He is a 31-year-old wrestler, really good personality, driven to be the best, charitable, fitness fanatic, wrestling lifer, strong interests outside wrestling. Pretty good popularity right now in North America and Europe compared to a lot of our wrestlers. Entertainment, he is very good, really good looking, really good star power, and pretty respectable wrestling skill as well. Looking for about $66,000 a month. So although he's perhaps not quite as good as some of those wrestlers we had looked at from GCW before, certainly not on the same level as Andre Freeman. And you can even argue that River Tate and Riley Young were better than him. He is a much more reasonable person to consider bringing on board. Definitely plan on making an offer to him. But before we do that, I'm going to spend some time reviewing the roster offline, as I mentioned, and trying to determine whether we'd want to try to bring him on board as a heel or a face, given our thoughts on who we want to stick around with for the long term and who we may move on from in the very near future. So another productive couple of months, in my opinion. Looking forward to beginning the second half of the year. Popularity continues to reach record levels with each show. And we are at a point with the fact that we made over $1 million last month where we can start perhaps thinking about upping production quality. The obvious moves would be to have writers working with talent or writers writing everything. We talked about some of those trade-offs earlier that we'll need to think about, or upgrading our pyrotechnic budget. And again, we are not too far away from needing to expand to a small office, because that's going to eventually be required for us to beat 60 popularity, which fortunately for us is probably only a matter of months away at this point. So things still going well. Always appreciate your feedback, suggestions, and ideas. And until our next episode, thanks so much for watching, and hope you have a great day.